Live from 7 Sports, this is the Orange and Blue Review, driven by your Rocky Mountain Honda dealers.
Welcome back to the Orange and Blue Review. Eric Lupher's in for Mitch Jelliker today, and he brought some props. He's has some wardrobe issues over here.
But probably the best gift from my mother.
Dude, that is fantastic.
They're the cheap version of
they're not the actual football gloves. They're just like an all-around glove.
But they're still pretty cool. Let me show you my attire here when I go to the games. So this is my summer attire. Boom, let's pop this on.
Keeps you cool?
Little large for me. Little large for me.
You need to get that up. It's like a helmet. You need to actually...
Yeah, I got to wear a hat with it.
There,
I got to wear a hat with it as well to fit.
Yes.
And then the winter attire, Mom also got this for me. Thank you, Mother. Yeah. Pop it on here.
Mommy, thank you.
Boom.
Wow, fantastic, Eric.
Thank you.
Hey, look, a lot of people are talking about a problem that we haven't addressed yet, and that's what they think is the play calling, conservative play calling.
Right.
Twice on 3rd and long, I think they ran the ball, didn't make the first down. I don't know. I mean, it didn't jump out to me that they were like, oh, my gosh, the Broncos are playing so conservative. But there were points in the game where you're like,
absolutely,
what is that call?
Right.
But I think with every team in every game, you could probably point out 3 or 4 of those plays and, pinpoint that as being a conservative call, or what was that all about?
Well, tell me if you agree with this then. It looked to me that it was definitely part of the game plan, something that they came in, they decided this is what they were going to do. And what do you think about this? Because you're more of an expert than I am. Do you think they maybe held out a little too long trying to stick with that game plan rather than letting loose a little bit?
Well, when you see them score those 2 touchdowns in the 4th quarter, and you're like, that looked so easy. Why aren't you doing that the whole time? Well, they did in the first half against the Colts, jumped up 24-0, and then you get into a conservative mindset, and the Colts come back and make it a game. It's one of those things where it looks like you can score at will on certain plays, on certain drives. And then other drives, it's like, run, incomplete punt, which they had like 5 drives in a row where they punted the ball.
So many
like
chances.
7 out of 8 at one point. And I saw Peyton hand the ball off one time on 3rd and long. He got stuffed, and I saw him kind of, you can tell Peyton's the king of body language. You can tell exactly what he's thinking. And he just kind of walked off the field like... I went with the call, and I don't know why they called that. It looks like he's saying, though he could have changed it at the line, but he went with it. So, I don't know. We'll have to see how it pans out from here. But, yeah, conservative play calling, that is something that...
I would say early.
Yeah.
And then, I think they'd, But, again, you're going into Seattle. You don't want to... It's an amazing defense.
Right.
You start throwing picks, it could be another 48-3 game. You know what I mean? So it's tough when you think about it.
Well, let's go to the phones, shall we? I love saying that. Let's go to the phones now and talk with 7 Sports anchor, Arran Andersen. Arran, how are you doing? It's a little early for you this morning, isn't it?
I'm still horizontal. I'm not in bed, but I'm actually on the couch. I'm going to need therapy after this season, I think.
Well, wow, your voice sounds crystal clear there, so it's glad you're up and about and ready to go for the morning. Great show last night on 7 Sports Extra. I watched that thing. Good reports, all the sound from Seattle coming in. But, I mean, you look at some of the quotes on this, what some of the players are saying. Pete Carroll, the Seahawks coach, said that was a championship game. Chris Harris Jr. is like, we want to see them again. He thought they made a statement in that game. Russell Wilson said it's one for the ages. Of course, Peyton says he's disappointed. But what's your feeling in this one? My feeling is... a lot of things to clean up. You talk about you picked out the play calling maybe. You pick out the run game that's almost non-existent. But you go to Seattle and you push them to overtime and lose 26-20. I'll take that. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I think that's a positive way to look at things. I mean, look, they lost 43-8 in the Super Bowl 48, a game that wasn't even close. And we could call this Super Bowl 48.5, because I think everybody believes these two teams are going to see each other again in Phoenix come February. The Broncos played a lot better in this game than they did at MetLife Stadium. I don't believe in moral victories. I don't think a lot of people do in the NFL. But, heading into this game, I thought the Seahawks had more to lose than the Broncos did. I mean, if they lose this game, not only are they beaten at CenturyLink, which is, their fortress of solitude where they never get beat. people look at this team and say, wow, they no longer have that swagger. It's back-to-back losses. What happened to the Seahawks? Whereas, with a loss, a competitive game, people can look at the Broncos and say, man, they have gotten better, and they're closer to beating a Seattle team. And you can make the argument that if that game was played on a neutral field, maybe they do win. But, all in all, we can criticize the play calling, the lapses and play, which we've seen in every game, week 1, 2, and 3 now. And you can also say, geez, there were mental mistakes and blah, blah, blah. But, there was no back down in the Broncos, and I think it's very positive that you hear guys saying, hey, we want another crack at these guys, because after Super Bowl 48, I think those guys were beaten, and they slunk into the offseason with their tails between their legs.
Well, and Arran, there really is a good chance that they're going to meet them possibly in a Super Bowl rematch. I want to get up to Facebook right now, specifically on OT, Arran. Kelly Hora, here's what she said. Outcoached in OT, how can Fox and others say this year's team has improved over the last year's Super Bowl team? Offense is anemic, and the defense is gassed by OT. What do you think about that?
Well, they were outplayed in overtime, but the Broncos never even touched the football. And that defense had been on the field a long, long time. I don't know. I mean, I've got some interesting thoughts on overtime, which is, this new change where, if a team scores a touchdown, the game's over. I still think both clubs have to touch the football. I'm not a huge fan of college football and what they have in overtime, but at least both teams have an opportunity, to have Peyton Manning march this team down and score in, what was it, 41 seconds, 80 yards to tie this game. They get the 2-point conversion. They go to overtime, and that's it. You just watch the Seahawks march down the field. That certainly leaves a bad taste in your mouth. But outcoached, geez, that defense, it played well. They kept the Broncos in the football game, and they were gassed. That's really, I think, symptomatic of the fact that, it was the end of the football game.
Right.
My gosh, I think we're being pretty harsh on these guys. As far as being outcoached, look, I agree with you guys. Virgil Green was given the ball to run. They handed the football to him on a 3rd down. This is Virgil Green, your blocking tight end. I have some real questions about trying to establish the run with an offense that's based around Peyton Manning. Why don't you allow Peyton to do his thing? I understand you've got to have some sort of running game to make the play-action pass work, but if it's not working, you're shooting yourselves in the foot every time you hand the ball off to Monte Ball and, set yourself up for a 3rd and long against one of the most stout defenses in the league. That's where I think the coaching comes in. And you say, it's conservative play calling. It's running the football. It's gosh, I don't know. What happened to the offense that we saw against the Ravens last year that blew the door off Baltimore? We haven't seen that yet, and I think it's because you've got Adam Gase and John Fox wanting to go 50-50, pass, run. We've got to establish this running game, and I just don't think we've seen any sign that that's going to happen this year at all.
I agree. Look, I mean, if the running game's not there and you're trying to force it to work by using your Virgil Green or something, that to me, that's banging your head against the wall. It's not working, okay? Mm-hmm. Don't force it. Move on. Do what you do best. Throw a 5-yard pass to Welker. Throw out a screen to Demaryius Thomas in the flat, then hit Sanders over the middle. He has so many things to do. Just stop running the game, running the ball if it's not working, and work on it later. But I tell you what, I don't agree with Kelly. They weren't outcoached in overtime. Russell Wilson converted 2 third downs with his legs, and when he was forced out of the pocket. Okay, that's not outcoached. And this team is better than last year's team, I believe. All right.